Baking 101. Crafting your first loaf of bread. Baking bread can be a rewarding experience, transforming simple ingredients like flour, water, yeast, and salt into a flavorful, aromatic loaf. While the idea of baking bread may seem daunting to beginners, understanding the basics can make the process enjoyable and straightforward. This essay aims to guide novice bakers in crafting their first loaf of bread successfully. 1. Understanding ingredients. A. Flour. The backbone of bread, flour provides structure. Typically, bread flour or all-purpose flour is used due to its higher protein content, essential for gluten development. B. Water. Water activates the yeast and helps in forming the dough. The water-to-flour ratio impacts the bread's texture, making it dense or airy. C. Yeast. Yeast is a crucial leavening agent, fermenting sugars in the dough to produce carbon dioxide, causing the bread to rise. D. Salt. Salt enhances flavor and strengthens the gluten network in the dough. 2. Preparing the dough. A. Mixing. Combine the ingredients in a large bowl, ensuring the yeast and salt do not directly contact, as salt can deactivate yeast. Mix until a shaggy dough forms. B. Kneading. Turn the dough onto a floured surface and knead for about 10 minutes or until it's smooth and elastic. This step develops gluten strands that give structure to the bread. 3. First rise, fermentation. A. Resting. Place the kneaded dough in a greased bowl, covering it with a damp cloth. Allow it to rest in a warm environment until it doubles in size, usually taking 1–2 hours. B. Degassing. After the first rise, gently punch down the dough to release the gas built up during fermentation. 4. Shaping and second rise. A. Shaping. Shape the dough gently into a loaf without deflating it too much. Place it in a greased loaf pan. B. Proofing. Cover the shaped dough and let it rise again, usually for about 30–60 minutes, until it's noticeably puffy but not necessarily doubled in size. 5. Baking. A. Preheating the oven. Preheat your oven to the recommended temperature, typically around 375 degrees Fahrenheit, 190 degrees Celsius, ensuring consistent heat when the bread is baking. B. Scoring. Just before baking, make shallow cuts on the top of your loaf with a sharp knife. This allows steam to escape and helps the bread expand uniformly. C. Baking time. Bake the bread for about 30 minutes or until it's golden brown and sounds hollow when tapped on the bottom. Baking times may vary depending on the specific recipe. 6. Cooling and storing. A. Cooling. Once baked, remove the bread from the oven in the pan and let it cool on a wire rack for at least an hour before slicing. This allows the interior to finish cooking and sets the crust. B. Storing. Store the cooled bread in a bread box or an airtight container to maintain freshness. Avoid refrigerating bread as it can make it stale faster. 7. Troubleshooting. If your bread doesn't rise well, it could be due to expired yeast, insufficient kneading, or an overly cold environment during the rising phase. If the crust is too thick or hard, it might be due to over-baking or too much flour. Understanding these nuances helps in refining your baking skills. 8. Exploring variations. Once comfortable with the basics, explore different bread types, incorporating various flours, seeds, nuts, or dried fruits. Experimenting with hydration levels, kneading techniques, and fermentation times can also yield diverse textures and flavors. Conclusion. Baking your first loaf of bread can be an enlightening journey, unveiling the transformative magic of simple ingredients. The entire process, from mixing and kneading to baking and finally enjoying a homemade loaf, can bring immense satisfaction. While it may seem intricate at first, understanding each step's significance makes it manageable and opens the door to limitless culinary creativity. As you continue to bake, remember, every loaf is an opportunity to learn and improve. Embrace the inevitable hiccups as learning experiences and savor the rewarding essence of homemade bread.